Hey guys, it's Dr. Tanner coming at you here. I'm coming at you from our IV suite. I just wanted to remind you, we've got this great speaker coming up. You're going to love it. Super exciting, really cool info, all like hands-on things you could implement into your life today. But I wanted to remind you at the end of the summit that you could link in, and I want you to have access to those bonus materials that these people are providing. It's really valuable information. So don't forget to link into that. I also want to let you know that I am here to help. I am happy to work with you, to help you with your health concerns, to help you with your performance. You can find me and have access to me, Dr. Tanner, at www.run-lab.ca. So that's run-lab.ca. You can link in there. You can find out how to work with me. Enjoy the summit. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hello, everybody. We have a really cool guest on today. We are working with Joanne Fawcett. Joanne is an RMT. She specializes in massage, movement, and mindfulness. So with Joanne, we're going to read something here for you. Her bio is really cool. Joanne works with women who know taking care of themselves is the key to slaying their goals. How cool is that? We all want to slay those goals. Professionals, mothers, and partners whose superpower is getting stuff done. With 22 years of experience in massage therapy, exercise, nutrition, and mindset training, Joanne is self-proclaimed a stresspreneur. She's a business owner and a mom. She gets what you're going through and has founded a clinic to support you through this crazy cortisol ride called life. No sleep, no carbs, no weight, and not lifted can drive us into the ground. And Joanne is here to lift you up and get you back on track. Let's do this. Discover what natural health solutions support your brain and body so you can bring the best version back to your life. We're really lucky to have her with us today. Hi, Joanne. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. This is great.
Yeah, Joanne, tell us your story.
Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I started out working in as a trainer in athletic therapy with high performance track and field athletes. So that was my first opportunity to get in and see what sprinters and hurdlers go through, what their training routine was throughout a year, and just their stresses, what happened with their bodies, what happened with mentally, what was going through their mind. That led me into massage therapy, wanting to get into this field. And I was also a recreational runner myself. So I got into doing the 5Ks, 10, and of course half, and swore off the, I'll never do a marathon. That's crazy. And then in 2004, did my first marathon. So
right on, congratulations.
I know. So it's when I hear women come in and say, oh, I'm practicing, or just started to do a training group for my first 10K, and when they really enjoy it and love it, and I can hear them in the groove, and like, and you'll be doing a half next year. No. And but yeah, it's a great sport to be involved in, but there is a big problem with burnout and overtraining, and it's something we don't really look at when we're working full time and we're looking at athletic events and we're trying to train, of adding in some time for recovery. We don't think of ourselves necessarily as an athlete, but I'm here to tell you are. If you are out there running and training, that means you're an athlete. It's one of those mental blocks a lot of people hold, right?
That's a great point. A lot of people have this imposter syndrome where
Yes.
they feel like, especially when they're first starting out, they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do a run, but
Yep.
they're immersed with all these other people that they are assuming are pros at running. And a lot of those other people are just in the same boat as you. They're trying to get a little bit more fit, bring movement back into their life, do something that feels good.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're training. You're an athlete. This is amazing.
I know. And I remember I held that too for years. I would go out and do 5K runs, and it was just kind of that exercise, and I'd work out at a gym, and I was also working at a gym in my first years as an RMT. And it was just kind of the add-on. I thought real runners run 10K. I'm not a real runner, or you know what I mean? Don't think of that. And then we first run that 10K. And I have to say, still, I think for myself, that's one of those cool milestones I'll always keep. I remember when I got up in the morning, I went with a friend and we did a 10K before we went to work. And I was like, wow, because that was always that benchmark in my mind. That must be am I a runner now?
Yeah.
It is funny. And then you continue goals, but you always meet people who are that little bit ahead of you, and you always think, oh, I guess they're, the runner. But I think when we get into the athlete mind of training, it makes some sense, and we can kind of settle into it and visualize a little bit more clearly what we need to do to get those goals done, whether it's accomplishing your first run, or you want to increase your personal best, or you really want to ramp up your speed, that you really kind of, set back and have a more clear plan.
Yeah, no, good point. So I think regardless of where you are in that training program, again, if you're starting out, if you've never done anything, if you're just looking to move, our physiology is the same, and we all have the same musculoskeletal system, and that needs some care from us. So Joanne, tell us like about the muscles. What do we need to know?
Yeah, so this is one thing that I really like to explain to people, because I think it gives you a good quick visual what is actually happening in the muscle to create action, to propel us forward and get us moving. So I brought here my little this is a knee. So this is our quadricep muscle at the front of the leg above the knee, and how it comes down. So the red part is the muscle belly, where all the blood flow is coming into the muscle, and it comes down into a tendon and attaches across the knee. But the main thing, you can see the striations, that identifies it as a muscle that we can actually activate ourselves. And I'm going to put it up a little closer. You see all these little tiny bundles.
Oh yeah, we can see those in there.
Yeah, those bundles are the key. What happens, we have an elasticity component to the muscle. And so our muscle fibers, when we're at rest or relaxed, they sit kind of end to end. The way we create movement, when we start to move, the brain sends a nerve signal. These cross, it's called a cross bridge action. And it's when we pull them apart again, it's like the lighting of a match. That's the action potential. That's the actual energy that makes the muscle movement in whatever we're doing. I'm moving my hands right now or going for a run. If we don't add some type of recovery, we don't add some type of stretch or movement that's not training based, so increasing strength all the time, what happens is our muscles start staying in a more tense position. So they don't come back to that lengthened position. They start staying day to day a little bit crossed. And now what happens is we decrease our power. So we have to work harder to make that cross bridge, to make that action potential, and we have less actual space to make it happen. And so it's that gradual progression of shortening and keeping the muscles in a shortened state that creates the potential for injury. And it's that feeling you feel in your shoulders after you're sitting all day. We can always feel it up here, and you go and squeeze someone's shoulders, and it's so tight. Like for this right here,
shoulders go totally up.
And that muscle soreness we feel the next day. So the key for the prevention and recovery is we want to, and this is what a professional athlete in any sport is always visualizing and working at, is pulling that back out. So we want to increase the distance from the maximum amount of tension you can produce in your run to the maximum amount of relaxation. The more we can pull that back, the stronger you can get, the faster you can become, and the more quickly you can build up muscle and strength. And in a runner's routine, you generally have hill training and speed training. And those are two key components where you're really, really using this concept where you're really tightening because you're pushing to build muscle. You're trying to build the strength and the fiber activity for that action. So we need to use recovery to help pull back. And actually, it should be fun and good. It's the good part of the training. But everyone gets beat up about the speed training. I'm like, but recovery's fun. Really relaxed, should be good. But so that's the key component. The other aspect is when we repeat a movement, what's happening when the brain, we're telling ourselves we want to keep doing distance. We want to add distance every time, whether you're just starting on a run walk, 5 and 1 where you're walking or running for 5 minutes, walking for 1 minute, or you're up in, a more elite group of training and trying to increase your time. The brain's sending a signal down your nerves, but the nerve and the muscle don't actually meet. There's a tiny bit of space, and it needs, in order to get that electrical, the nerve signal into the muscle to do this contraction, it needs neurotransmitters, which is a fluid. And sometimes we just overwhelm that space with so much fluid. We're just repeating our runs. We're doing long runs. We're doing too many runs. We're running too many days in a row. And that just overwhelms. And now our signal it's blocked. I can't reach the muscle. And that's the other part, is recovery allows time for these small cells. And I always say it's like mini wetbacks to come in and just clear that space. And it's just how we can think of it. It's not a mini wetback, but and that's what's happening in our body when we're at rest. So it's so important to put rest in order to increase your power, increase your speed, and increase your muscles' ability to release so they can generate more power and movement for you.
So would you say when you're in that state of like muscle tension and you're saying that, things are kind of tight, there isn't as much flexibility in regards to how much that muscle can contract and expand, would you say from a runner's perspective that they're going into more of a shorter stride length?
Yes, exactly. And that's what starts people into that shuffle, because we can't expand. We lose our range of motion. And sometimes we don't feel that at first. Our muscles aren't necessarily sore. We're feeling good. We're getting a lot of blood flow because we're keeping it running. And especially if you're running at a slightly slower pace, you're not up at higher speeds yet. Mm-hmm. Your body can handle it for a while, but absolutely, yeah, that's we start shortening our capacity to get a good swing and our good gait length.
Okay. So ultimately that's going to limit your movement somewhat and limit your speed and your endurance goals, right? So really important to build in that rest and recovery phase.
Exactly.
Great. What are some ways that we can build in this rest and recovery?
I know. So the number one thing you should do, and you can start today, and there's so much access to it now, there's lots of apps, is we really need to track our sleep. And when I talk to my runners, I'm like, we track everything when you're athletic to, how many steps you're taking, how much mileage you're doing, your speed, your pace. We need to track our sleep. We need to add that on. And a lot of the technology makes it really easy these days. Any of your phones, Android, Apple, there's lots of free apps that you can use. Some of them it's just a matter of sticking under your pillow. Some are things that you can wear. The Fitbit's great. But you really need to know. So our sleep sleep cycle is 90 to 100 minutes. That's the approximate sleep cycle. And it comes in five stages. And we always hear about REM sleep, but it's not actually REM sleep. REM sleep's one of the last phases of sleep, and it's when our brain is really busy. There's a slow wave stage, which is right before. So there's that transitional phase where you're just falling to sleep, you're in a light sleep, and then there's a deep sleep phase. And this is when we get a hormonal cascade come down from the brain. This is when the brain is at its lowest level of energy and it's allowing the body to repair. So the repair process happens when we're asleep. So the muscle fibers, I'm saying, we want to help open them up and repair from injury. Is the way we grow strength is a tear and repair process. So we're always pushing our muscle past its capacity on a fine line so that it injures itself slightly, and then at night that sleep allows it to repair, and it repairs thicker and stronger.
Okay.
So as we go through a training cycle, that's what our strength gains are measured by. We can measure that growth and that process by our strength gains. The key is we need the sleep. So we need to get some deep sleep. And it's one thing that it is hard when we're working full time, and we're often getting up really early mornings to do figuring out when our long runs are, when we can do our runs. But you really need to look at what is suggested is 5 sleep cycles. So that would give you about 7.5 hours of sleep.
Okay.
You also want to try and look at your quality of sleep. So my suggestion is there is a bit of a sleep debt, and then you can actually kind of make it up. But you can't do this over a long period of time, but over a 6-month kind of training program for a race, you could definitely, and that's why I say, like, get out your calendar. You've already put in your training schedule. Now put in those recovery days, the days off. And if you can, try and add it, get to bed earlier or try and sleep in later, whatever your schedule allows, to try and make sure you can get, if you can get 8 to 8.5 that night, it will help you if you can get deeper into a good night's sleep in this repair cycle. And the 2 big things that happen when we're in this slow wave sleep is that we get growth hormone released by the brain, and the growth hormone helps with repairing the cells and regenerating cells and building new muscle tissue. And we also get a hormone called prolactin, which helps dampen the inflammation process. So inflammation is going to be a natural product of a lot of training. Our body gets a little more acidic, a little bit more wear and tear in it, which causes some inflammation. And that deep sleep can really curb and reduce that inflammation that's happening in our body. And that's a key component, because when we get injured, that's what we're dealing with, is the inflammatory process getting too excessive and trying to pull that back.
Okay.
So sleep is our big thing. And then one of the things that I feel really passionate about is learning some meditation or mindfulness techniques. And this doesn't have to take a long period of time. You don't have to get up an hour earlier and sit in your pillow in your room with candles and incense. It's about getting into your body, feeling your body more.
Okay.
The stress response always occurs in our body first and rises up to our brain. And so one thing just during the day with things that don't have to do with workouts, if you can start recognizing where your stress response hits you. Is it in the gut? Some people say their throat tightens or their chest gets tight. You can then start breathing. And the simplest, easiest way to help stop that stress response is just to take 5 slow, deep breaths. And with breathing, the key is the inhale. When we exhale, if you think of a sports team playing, they get out and you do chants and you're like, ha, ha, ha. You exhale really quickly. That excites the body. It's the slow inhale does the opposite.
Okay.
So slow, long inhale. So count of 5 in, count of 5 out, breathing through your nose is the quickest, easiest, and fastest way to start settling your body from that stress response. So if you can start practicing that when you go to bed, helps you settle down, your nervous system settles so you can get into that deeper sleep.
Yes.
It's also great pre-race. If you have a long wait before you run, if you start to get a bit anxious and you just want to get back into your zone of feeling relaxed and calm, you're really learning some breathing tools and some mindfulness. Visualizations, another fantastic thing. If you're training for a race and you have the course map, you can always get the course map online. Just visualize that. Know your mile markers. People tend to do that anyways. They know what time they want to be at each mile marker, at each water station. And now just start visualizing that with your breath. So as you're going to bed, slow inhale, exhale, and in your mind to get focused, focus on your mile markers, focus on that map. So when you get there the day of the race, you feel, exactly, like you're already grounded. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
like
the crowd, the music and the stuff just kind of, it's exciting, but you can also get into your pace faster.
Okay. Would you say from the sleep perspective, like too little sleep is going to leave you more tired, more predisposed to some of those injuries, so a little harder to recover?
Yes.
But what about too much sleep? Could that be a sign of mood disorders like depression or overtraining?
Yes, exactly. That's a great point. It absolutely. Sleep is such a great indicator for us in general in life, but particularly with athletes. If there may be other issues happening, and a very common thing with distance runners is partway through their training, sometimes that can add to a bit of depression. They go through a phase where, because of the exhaustion, they've been adding so much mileage for so many months, they've been doing some other strength training, and they start to overwhelm their system, and they get symptoms very similar to depression because they're not getting that sleep. So you're absolutely right. You want to be able to wake up and feel good. Ideally, it would be great if we could wake up without an alarm. You wake up at your natural time. That doesn't always happen with work and life, but even if you can try and say one day a week on a Sunday or a Saturday or your long run day, and really sleep in and try and sleep till your body naturally awakes. But you're right, if you're at work and during your day, you're just finding you can't keep your eyes open, you get in the caffeine cycle, or you start taking things to keep yourself awake, that is an indication of overtraining as well.
Okay, good. So some signs to watch out for, guys, because what you're doing is amazing, getting yourself back, moving and whatnot, but sometimes there is a line. We have to be careful that we don't cross that line and pay attention to your body's symptoms and the signs that it's trying to tell you there. I like what you said with the meditation, you don't necessarily need the incense and the candles.
Yes, I know.
It can be as simple. Yeah, it can be, we tend to make things complicated. That can be beautiful and wonderful if that's what you're looking for. But if you're just looking for a little bit of relaxation, you don't have time to get into all that stuff, then just focus on the breath, that deep breathing that
Yes.
Joanne's talking about.
The deep
Okay.
breathing. And I wanted to show, I had a tool here that I find is great. It's a nice Toronto innovation. It's called a Muse headband.
Oh, I didn't realize it was a Toronto innovation. Oh, that makes me like it even more. Tell us about this headband. What does it do, Joanne?
These sensors and on the earpieces. So you put it on like this.
Okay.
And you tuck it in behind your ears. Sorry if my hair
Yes.
on. So you'd wear it like this, and there's a free app that comes with the headband that you download onto your phone.
Yes.
And what I find it ideal for is learning to get in touch with what state you're in your body. And that's a big part of mindfulness, is trying to understand where you're at. Are you stressed right now? Are you really being calm? Sometimes people get frustrated. Compliance with meditation is very low, and which is, I totally understand. When you first start and you sit and you're like, I think my mind's clear, I don't know what's going on. It's easy to give up and just go, this is a waste of my time, even 5 minutes, right? Because you don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
When you do something like the Muse, it's an EEG, so that's not necessarily new. The new technology part of the Muse is the app that they were able to create, the algorithm that sends that information in real time to the app. So when you're sitting, the Muse can be on, you can have it on mute, or you can listen to soundtracks. You can listen to the rain dropping. That's the one that I like. You can listen to waves lapping up against the shore. But the idea is that when you start thinking, that soundtrack gets stronger. It sounds like a storm coming in. And when you let yourself get in a really calm state where you're not having as much mind chatter, you start to hear it goes quiet, and then you'll slowly put in distractions by having the birds chirp. And then the idea is you want to keep increasing your time. So you start with 3 or 5 minute time frames, and you can just go up to 7 minutes to 10 minutes to 12 if you have time. I like to do a 20 or 25 minute now, but I've been using the Muse for a few years. But the other really cool aspect of this, all the meditation research across the board, whether it's mindfulness or a Zen strategy or Buddhist, it's the idea that we create some space and time that we understand we're distracted, and we can bring ourselves back down. And that's ultimately the thing, is that we get more in touch with our body, more in tune with our body and our mind of when we're actually really distracted, so that we can start getting back into our breath and letting ourselves calm down. So this is fantastic for training and recovery, because it lets your body get into that recovery mode much easier.
Okay.
And it also, before you go to bed, there's some great apps. Insight Timer is one I would suggest. It's a free app. They have all kinds. You can schedule by the minute. You can say, I just need a 5-minute app before I go to sleep. And it can help you through sleep, but it helps your brain focus and settle so that you can get into those deep, slow wave sleep cycles.
Yes,
Great.
I really do. I'm a strong believer in knowledge. I feel like knowledge is power, and the more we understand about our bodies and our physiology, the easier it is for us to understand that solution. So I love that this app or this headband can help us create that sense of awareness, so that we can recognize that our brain is starting to be a little more active, that we're feeling a little bit more stressed out, and we need a little bit more support. All right.
Amazing thing about runners, just to add that in on the meditation, what people doing meditation are trying to achieve is actually what runners achieve on. Here's another great tip. The other great way to change your state and get into a deeper is a 20 minutes of exercise, not talking. So it's the big tip I have for runners. I know everybody loves to listen to their music and their soundtracks, but I really recommend within your run, depending what your distance, if you can turn it off, keep your earbuds in so you still dampen some of your outside sound, but talking to someone and listening to music stimulates our brain in other parts of our brain. When we're quiet and exercising, it's like the brain starts turning off lights in other parts of the brain, because we're using energy, and it knows we need to minimize brain activity and maximize our body's activity. And that's a great thing. That's what ultimately we're trying to do when we sit with meditation, but we actually are doing it often. And some runners will be like, I get that. I know that moment, right? Yeah. But really, if you can turn your music off, or if you run with a partner, just choose a part where you time it and just say, let's go 20-25 minutes and not talk and just run beside each other. That will get you in that zone and you'll start feeling it. And it happens. It's automatic. It will happen to everybody. It's not like it's not happening to me. It will happen to yourself. And who are really in tune with long distances, it may take a little bit longer, but still you will feel that space where you just, it's almost an empty thought. You're kind of like, oh, look at that nice green tree. Look at that blue shirt. It just simplifies everything down because your body started going, I need my energy for this movement, and it helps settle your brain.
Yeah, it sounds like it's giving your nervous system a bit of a break, right? From all those stimuluses that are coming into your body.
Yes. Yeah, it helps the brain just tune them out themselves. And that's the great thing, is that the body's automatically doing it for you.
Well, right? And I guess if you're like running, if you're running outside, not on a treadmill, then you'll be exposed to some of those nature sounds too. And and a lot of city dwellers suffer from nature deficit disorder. Right. We need to hear the birds. We need to hear the wind in the trees, the water, the river. Like if you can get out near a valley or a forest or water, your nervous system is going to soak that up like a sponge. It will love that. All right, Joanne, so to recap some of the pearls here that Joanne has given us, if you're noticing a bit of a shorter stride length or you're having difficulty kind of maybe stretching the times, then looking at that rest and recovery phase, so important. It's so important that you need to actually schedule it in. And like most training plans will have their days where you're running less, running more, maybe doing a little cross training or hills or whatnot. But on the days where you're not doing stuff, you actually need to schedule it in because we will forget.
Yeah. So, and schedule your sleep and track your sleep.
Absolutely. So schedule your sleep, utilize some of the awesome apps that are out there, and pay attention to those hours. Joanne was saying it was about 8 or 8.5 is what we really want on that recovery day. Was that
7.5 is kind of what is your 5 sleep cycles.
Okay.
But if you can, yes, on that recovery day, push yourself to 8 to 8.5. That would be fantastic.
Okay, so 7.5 would be a nice average day, and then a little bit further on that recovery day.
Yes.
Looking into some meditation tips like the breathing, creating that body awareness and holding, where are you holding those stress responses so that you can recognize it when it gets a lot, or you can recognize it quicker, so because I find a lot of us, like we get stressed, and before we realize it, we're just being crushed by all of those stress factors. But if we can recognize it on that first level, then the tips like the meditation and all the sleep factors and the deep breathing, they're going to kick in and keep you at like coasting in a nice energetic zone instead of a burnt out zone. I like the deep breathing and like visualization. We tend to forget and like think, oh, that's what the pros do. But like everybody can visualize. Deep breathe before your race, before you're even at the event. Like visualize where you're going to be on the course, how you're going to be feeling at each mile marker. Like, oh, is that where I'm going to be struggling at mile 3 or whatnot, or kilometer 3? And maybe that's a time where you want to be focusing on your breathing during that part of the race as well, but bringing it outside of the runs and back into your life. I like oh, go ahead.
No, I just, on one point, for those who are trying, for runners who are really trying for a personal best, or they're at a point in their running training where they're now really trying to advance in speed, and they really have goals if they want to, get to Boston, or they want to make a certain time, that's starting to become more important for them. When you can decrease your stress load on the nervous system, you're not wasting energy. So when you get to mile markers and maybe you're not where you thought you were going to be, you wanted to be further ahead, keeping the stress levels down, that stress load down, gives you that space to think through more clearly what you need to do. What is your strategy for the next few mile markers to bring you back? Because, depending on your trainer, some people training, a lot of people have that capacity, but if they got themselves up with so much tension, we're wasting energy with the stress response. We're just, we're draining energy from where we don't need that when we're in a race and we're trying for time. So you can control that stress response. And again, it controls that amount of tension we're holding in the muscle, right? It lets us relax, open up the muscle, open up our stride. That's just got me one more, sorry, thinking off the top, but stride length is the other great way to if you feel like you're shortening your stride during a race, open it up. It sometimes feels counterintuitive. You don't want to, but fight against and try and open up your stride length. That also helps to settle the nervous system.
Oh, great tip. Okay,
Yes.
didn't know
Yeah.
that. But with the nervous system, I like that 20 minutes of like quiet time. Give your
Yes.
nervous system a break. It's our sympathetic nervous system that's
Yes.
go, go, go. And that's the nervous system that leads us to adrenal fatigue and burnout. So even during like an exercise movement, quiet time. I really liked that. And we really need, like, when we're looking into running and movement and all these different exercise things, whether it's like CrossFit or like, you know, we all have these like fitness goals. We're training our musculoskeletal system and we forget about our brain. We really need to train your brain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And utilizing technology like the Muse and the Muse app. This is a great way to teach ourselves how to get back into training your brain. And that's useful whether you're an athlete or not, right? We all experience stress to some degree, and it's a great awareness tool. So Joanne, I love what you've told us today. There's some awesome tips. I think utilize things that everyone can utilize. So where can people find you, Joanne? Tell us, what's your website?
Yeah, so I have a clinic here at Yonge and St. Clair in Toronto. If anybody's local, it would be great to see you. We're at.
It looks like you're at the clinic right now.
Yes, I am. Yes, great. And that's some of our meditation pillows behind us that I love to make the room look a little nicer.
Yes.
But yes, we're at pure-health.ca, and you can book on. What I'd like also to let people know is one of the deals, I'd be more than happy to go through some meditation and movement strategies for people who are watching and are part of your webinar series, the Summit series. And I'll have that link on our booking site so people can book, and that'll be a free consultation if you're in the city and have time to come in, because it's a great strategy to add to your training.
Oh, that's great, everyone. So just so you know, after the webinar, there'll be a link to Joanne's website. And for those of you who are looking to have a complimentary session with her, that will be up there as well. And she is a massage therapist. So she has all this like exterior wealth of knowledge that goes above and beyond what an average massage therapist, I think, can expose you to, because she's been there, she's done this.
Yes.
And she's living it right now. So thank you again, Joanne. It was really awesome having you on. And
thank you so much. This is great.